Hello everyone. I'm Ella, a middle-aged love coach. Loneliness. Everyone feels lonely from time to time. Whether it's having no one to eat lunch with, moving to a strange city, or having no one to spend the weekend with. Over the past decades, millions have not just occasionally felt lonely, it has become a part of their everyday lives. In the UK, 60% of people aged 18 to 34 often feel lonely. In the US, 46% of the entire population says they feel lonely periodically. Despite living in the most interconnected era in human history, too many people still experience a sense of isolation. Being lonely and being alone are not the same thing. You can be alone and feel great happiness, and you can be with others and feel miserable every moment. Loneliness is purely subjective and a personal experience. If you feel lonely, then you are lonely. A common misconception is that only people who lack social skills and attachment feel lonely. However, studies involving many people have shown that sociability has little effect on forming social bonds. Loneliness can affect anyone, regardless of wealth, honor, power, appearance, sociability, or character. Loneliness is a part of our biology. Like hunger, loneliness is a biological function. Hunger focuses us on our physical needs, while loneliness focuses us on our social needs. Our bodies are sensitive to social needs because they have been directly linked to survival for millions of years. Through natural selection, our ancestors received rewards for cooperating and being connected. Therefore, our brains evolved to better perceive the thoughts and feelings of others, and to form and maintain social bonds. Maintaining social relationships has become a part of our biology. In the past, people were born and lived their entire lives in groups of 50 to 150 people. It was nearly impossible to find enough food, ensure safety and warmth, and care for children alone. Together, they survived; alone, they perished. Being with others was essential. For our ancestors, the greatest threat to survival was not being eaten by a lion, but failing to sense the mood of the group and becoming isolated. To avoid this, our bodies invented social pain. We evolved to feel the pain of exclusion and rejection. It acts as our body's early warning system, stopping behaviors that could lead to isolation from the group. Those who felt the pain of exclusion deeply would have changed their behaviors to remain within the tribe, while those who did not were likely expelled and ultimately perished. This is precisely why exclusion is painful, and why loneliness is even more excruciating. This method, which kept people connected, worked wonderfully for most of history until people began to create a new world. The spread of loneliness as we know it today began after the Renaissance. Western culture began to emphasize the individual. Intellectuals moved away from the collectivism of the Middle Ages, and the newly emerging Protestant theology emphasized personal responsibility. This trend accelerated during the Industrial Revolution. People left their villages and fields for factories. Communities that had lasted for hundreds of years began to disintegrate, and cities grew. As the world modernized rapidly, this phenomenon accelerated. Today, many people leave their acquaintances behind for work, love, and education, moving far away, and meeting fewer people less frequently. In 1985, Americans had an average of 3 close friends, but by 2011, this number had dropped to 2. Many people unwittingly reach a state of chronic loneliness. As adults, busy with work, college, dating, raising children, and taking breaks, time quickly passes by. The easiest and most convenient thing to sacrifice is time with friends. Then one day, you wake up to find a sense of isolation within you, and you long for time spent with others. But as an adult, it's hard to make close friends, and so loneliness becomes chronic. We live in an era where people talk daily about iPhones and space travel. But our bodies and minds haven't changed much from 50,000 years ago. The need for social connection is still deeply ingrained in us. According to large-scale studies, the stress caused by chronic loneliness has very harmful effects on human health. It accelerates aging, makes cancer more deadly, exacerbates dementia, and weakens the immune system. Some studies suggest that loneliness can increase the risk of developing dementia. Socially active elderly people have a lower risk of cognitive decline compared to their less social peers, suggesting that social interaction may be important for maintaining brain health. Loneliness and social isolation can increase the risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. People with inadequate social connections experience higher stress levels, which can negatively impact the cardiovascular system. Loneliness is twice as harmful as obesity. It's like smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. The most dangerous aspect is that chronic loneliness calls for deeper and more solitary loneliness. Physical pain and social pain stimulate the brain in the same way. Both are considered threats, so when we experience social pain, an immediate defense mechanism kicks in. When loneliness becomes chronic, the brain enters a self-protection mode. It starts looking for threats and hostility everywhere. This is not all. Research has found that when we are lonely, our brains become much more sensitive to social signals, while simultaneously, our ability to interpret these signals deteriorates. We become more focused on and concerned about others. Yet we understand them less and misunderstand more. The parts of the brain responsible for interpreting facial expressions and emotions malfunction, interpreting neutral expressions as hostile and increasing distrust of others. Loneliness leads us to assume the worst intentions in others. Because we perceive the world negatively, we become more self-centered in order to protect ourselves. To others, we may appear increasingly cold, unfriendly, and socially awkward. If loneliness occupies too much of your life, the first step is to recognize the vicious cycle you are stuck in. Typically, it goes like this: initial feelings of isolation trigger anxiety and sadness, which cause you to focus only on negative interactions with others. This makes you more negative toward yourself and others, and gradually, your behavior changes. You start avoiding social activities, which deepens your isolation. This vicious cycle worsens each time, becoming harder to break. Loneliness leads to sitting alone in class, avoiding phone calls from friends, and declining invitations until they no longer come. We all have our stories. If you become the person everyone avoids, others will notice. And the world you feel becomes your reality. This can quietly progress over years, eventually leading to depression. A state where you long for others but cannot connect with anyone. The first step to break out of this state is to acknowledge that loneliness is a normal emotion and nothing to be ashamed of. We all feel lonely at some point in our lives. It's a universal human experience. Ignoring or avoiding it won't magically make the feelings disappear. However, if you accept them, you can find and address the causes. Reflect on what you've been focusing on. Have you been selectively concentrating only on the negatives? Think back to that incident with a colleague. Was it truly negative, or was it neutral or even positive? What actually happened? What did your colleague say? Did you really hear something negative, or could there have been a misinterpretation? Perhaps the other person wasn't reacting negatively but was simply rushed. Reconsider how you view the world. Do you always assume the worst intentions in others? Do you predetermine the outcomes of social interactions? Are you afraid of getting hurt? Leading you to shut people out? If so, have you tried to let go of these suspicions? Instead of assuming that people are pushing you away, could you risk getting hurt to open your heart again? Finally, reflect on your own behavior. Are you avoiding places where people gather? Are you coming up with excuses to decline invitations? Or are you pushing people away first to protect yourself? Are you acting as if you're under attack? Do you truly desire new connections? Or are you settling into your current situation? Of course, every person and situation is different, and self-reflection alone may not be sufficient. If you feel you cannot resolve it on your own, reach out to a professional for help. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness but a demonstration of courage. Whether you view loneliness as a purely personal issue to resolve for one's happiness, or as a public health issue, it's clear that it needs more attention from everyone. Humanity has created a world beyond wonder. Yet our dazzling civilization does not fully satisfy the fundamental and biological needs for mutual bonds. Most animals get what they need from their environment. We get it from each other. We must build a new human world based on this understanding. Not alone, but together. Let's try this together. Contact someone today. It's okay if you say you're feeling a bit lonely or just want to make them happy. Send a message to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Call a distant family member or relative, or go out for coffee with a work colleague. Or visit a place you've been avoiding out of fear or inconvenience. To overcome loneliness, strategies include forming new social relationships, participating in volunteer activities, and joining groups related to hobbies or interests. Additionally, mindfulness, meditation, and regular exercise can help manage stress and improve mental health. Find a coping strategy for loneliness that suits you and give it a try. Maybe nothing will happen, but that's okay. Try without any expectations. The goal is to slightly open your heart. Strengthen your social muscles, gradually becoming a source of strength for each other. Start practicing today. That's how you can shake off loneliness. Thank you for watching the video until the end. Please subscribe, like, and set the notification bell. Have a happy day. This was Ella.